So this week's episode of Steins Gate Zero, the plot twist that pretty much everyone saw coming, the shady professor turning out to be the one who brainwashed Kagri and will brainwash Kagri in the future, and everything like that, it came to fruition. And the thing with this is plot twists, even if they are predictable for the viewer, the important thing, was it predictable for the characters themselves? And the way the characters reacted was very believable for their situation, because when a viewer watches anime, we get the godlike perspective. We get to see what every character is thinking at any given time as long as they're in frame at some point in the anime. When you look at from our perspective, he looked shady, he obviously was the person who was going to betray the gang. However, if you look from their perspectives, Okabe's, Maho's, any of the other characters, there was no reason for them to suspect him as being someone who would turn on them. So having the betrayal, it worked perfectly, even though for the viewer we would be like, well, of course he's the guy who's going to betray them, but for the other characters, it was actually incredibly well done. In this episode, it actually showcases the best and worst aspects of Steins Gate all within one episode. The best parts of Steins Gate is what the core foundation of the series is built on, especially Steins Gate Zero, the psychological and character interactions. That's the staple of Steins Gate and why so many people fell in love with the first series, and why a lot of people would probably enjoy Steins Gate Zero. The moments that just make you shiver, send the chills up your spine, but the overall relationships between the cast, that is what Steins Gate is, and the reason it works so well is because of that, and that's 90% of Steins Gate Zero. But the aspect that is very bad with Steins Gate, and it really shined in this episode and last week's episode, is the action sequences. Steins Gate is not an action show. It's full of thriller aspects, character relationships, and that's what Steins Gate is. In last week's episode and this week's, we have some pretty lackluster action sequences. The way Kagri was kind of bouncing around, the way she was killing people, it's visually underwhelming, and the way it's directed is not that well done. But the thing with that is as poorly done as I think it is, and many people in my comment section have said that they don't like the action sequences in Steins Gate Zero, it's such a small fraction to the overall package, it's not a huge deal in my opinion. Sure, you can look at the past couple episodes and say, there was a lot of actions, you know, the soldiers just kind of teleported on the building. Obviously they climbed the building, but it kind of was directed in a way that they weren't there, now they're there. The way they're bouncing around, like, it's just not that exciting to watch. The action when it's exciting is when you look at the first series, you know, they're standing in the apartment, then out of nowhere there's a bunch of people who are en masse, Mayuri gets killed, and then they exit it. Or you look at Okabe's fight with Kurisu's dad, it's exciting because, you know, they're both human, they're struggling, it felt like a believable fist fight. Here, it's like, yeah, we get that some of these soldiers are more supernatural than others, but it's not that exciting, at least for me. But because it's like 15 minutes out of 18 episodes of Steins Gate, I don't really fault it too much. I can understand if people really don't like the action, and maybe you will love the action. For me, it's just like, it's not that great, sure, but it's such a small percentage of the overall Steins Gate Zero package, I don't fault it too much, but I do think it's a valid criticism to say that the way it's directed and just the way it looks, the action, is not that exciting because Steins Gate isn't an action show. But what really sells this episode is, like I said, the professor being revealed. It was just shocking for the characters, and I loved their reaction, how Maho was crying and breaking down, how all the characters kind of were piecing things together, why things were happening. He wanting to steal the time machine, fake the time machine's death, gives me the same vibes that, hey, I wonder if this is where Okabe's going to get the idea to fake his own death and tell his past self that, since the professor wanted to fake the time machine's death. And I think it's kind of exciting because they end up taking the time machine, Mayuri as well as Suzuha. Mayuri doesn't end up dying, which is something that was equally as possible as her dying, as I said last week. She doesn't die, so Mayuri basically wants to tell her past self to force Okabe to try again. He needs that push in order to reach Steins Gate. But parts of the machine get blown up, so I'm curious if they're going the route the machine actually did get destroyed. Okabe is going to have to turn into the mad scientist and build it so he can actually stop this from ever happening, or if they did end up making it and it was just some small pieces. But nonetheless, I think this is the final push to reach mad scientist once again, and the fact that he calls the professor the true mad scientist, it's like, oh, it's so good. The best part of the entire episode is when Mayuri is basically speaking over the text message as Okabe is reading it. It was just so emotional, the way it was directed, the way just the music and the voice acting was going. It was such a beautiful and heartbreaking scene. You're like, we don't know what's happening, but like she says, if she does end up screwing up, Okabe will be there for her, and he will save her like he always does. Like, everything about the episode, like when you remove maybe the mediocre action sequences, the actual character writing, the betrayal, the heartbreak, Kaguri's seemingly death, or she's about to die at least it seems like, and the whole idea of him wanting to basically leap back, but he can't because the microwave's not finished, like, the way it built up. This episode just showcases the best and worst aspects of Steins Gate, but the best aspects definitely class the worst aspects. Like, just the way the action sequences are directed, it's like, when you're watching it, you're like, yeah, this doesn't really feel that great, but then when you get to the good stuff, you completely forget about the bad aspects. And Steins Gate Zero, like, it has its faults here and there. Sometimes the directing isn't up to par with maybe the first series, but it's such an engaging world, and I just love this world line because of how messed up it is, but it's so crucial into reaching Steins Gate. May not like a certain aspect in the episode, I still enjoy the episode completely, and I'm always satisfied walking out of an episode, and I'm so eager to watch the next one. But let me know what you thought of the episode. Favorite moment, what caught you off guard in this episode, if anything, whatever you're feeling, let me know down in that comment section below, and if you enjoyed the video, remember to leave a like, and if you're new, also be sure to subscribe. So until next time everyone, please take care and have a good one.